in Old Ballard, there were so many saloons and so many churches. There seemed to be an equal number of them. And the legend is that the city fathers of Ballard actually created an ordinance to guarantee spiritual equality within the community that said for every saloon that was issued a license, a church had to be built. That's the legend.
Bars, and there's sure a lot of churches, you know. Drink a lot of wine in the churches, so they need a place to go after church.
When I came here, it was a sea of gray hair. And now kids are throwing up in the pews. It's wonderful. We don't have St. Patrick down there on Shilshow. We got Leif Erikson.
First of all, is it true that there are so many Nordic people in Ballard? One of Ballard's reputations. What we discovered was that there was about 35%.
The Norwegian community kind of took over the genre and the culture of Ballard. They still run this area.
There was a Norwegian Lutheran church, there was a Swedish Lutheran church, there was a Icelandic Lutheran church. There was a Finnish Lutheran church, Icelandic Lutheran churches, and they could all be on one block.
A lot of these strong Lutheran, Norwegian, Swedish people had very powerful pastors, and they came here and they said, we're going to have religion. And so they started building churches. I think it was a stupid ordinance because all you're going to do is dilute the parishes and you're making a concession to the bars.
You have to look at the fact that Ballard's a blue-collar town. It was known as Shingletown, USA, because on its waterfront more red cedar shingles were produced than any other community nationwide.
We know why the bars were here. These were tough mill workers, and these guys drank.
The saloons were all located along Ballard Avenue. It was a convenience for the mill owners to have a watering hole so close. You've got a lot of immigrant workers. A lot of them are single men when they first get here. They're going to come up to Ballard Avenue. They're going to get a drink. They're going to crawl up the stairs and go to that room they're sharing with 8 or 10 guys. Go to bed, get up again first light the next morning, and go back to work.
And I'm sure these guys had their little private taverns where they went after work and they socialized. But that has its problems.
You know, Ballard was a sin city. I know this street had so many bars and so many brothels at one time on it was because that's where the money was. I mean, that's how you made money. Satan, I'm not one of these big, like, Satan is cool kind of guys. I got nothing against him. I mean, there's a lot of people who feel like you have to keep people moral if there's a lot of sin around.
It was very common for women of the day to belong to the Women's Christian Temperance Union and work toward the abolition of, eventually, the sale of alcohol.
The WCTU was becoming a very strong influence in the church community at that time, seeking to change city ordinance.
They prayed outside of taverns, pushed for legislation.
They didn't want to see families getting dragged into what they considered a real vice.
Any place you have Scandinavian loggers and fishermen, you had drinkers, you had alcoholism, and you had women and children suffering for it.
But we've had a few fights, we've had a few crazy fights. We do have a woman who comes in on a regular basis, Lena, who is an old-time Norwegian Ballardite. She always insists on opening up the shows with God Bless America because she loves America so much.
God bless America, my home sweet home.
It isn't an accident that in the old days alcohol was called the spirits. But we don't think it's a spirit that's positive from heaven. We think it's from somewhere else, and we call it John Barleycorn. And he's evil, and he is sent by the devil, not by God.
First time in my life this winter, I was homeless and did the street thing. And a lot of these people, they're not a bunch of drunks or something on the street. Some of the people are a little bit hurting. I like some of these churches around here. They're good to the homeless. They feed the homeless. They're really good. Peace be with you. Take care. Everybody take care. Take care of your own and my own. Yeah.
Knowing the WCTU, it would seem to me they would want 0 taverns and many, many churches.
The myth of the neighborhood that there had to be a bar for every, or a church for every bar, I don't know if that's necessarily true.
I didn't know it was an official ordinance. I didn't know they had to. I just know they did it.
We really wanted to find proof whether an ordinance existed. And so we went to the King County records, and that's where what remains of the City of Ballard records were housed. And we looked through the record of the city council minutes and ordinances. We found record of discussion of liquor permits, the pros and cons of issuing permits. We were not successful in finding any ordinance that could be interpreted as requiring a church for every saloon. What we did find was that there was an equal balance between the saloons and the churches. In 1904, we had 10 saloons and 10 churches. In 1905, we had 16 of each. At the time of annexation, we had 22 churches and 23 liquor licenses. The spirit of the ordinance existed even if the letter of the ordinance did not.
Now, have we got off the taverns and the churches now? You want to go for a drink or something? No, I'm just